You won't believe what just happened to Pastor Gino Jennings. The man known for his fearless preaching and strong words found himself in the middle of a shocking controversy that left everyone talking. A pastor bringing a gun into a church? This sounded unbelievable, but the rumors started spreading fast. It all started when Jennings arrived at a highly anticipated church event. People were excited. His followers had gathered in large numbers, eager to hear him speak, but things didn't go as planned. The moment he stepped inside, something unusual caught the attention of the church officials. They noticed a bulge under his coat. Some whispered that it looked like a gun. Others thought it was just an innocent mistake. But before anyone could figure out what was really happening, church security stepped in immediately. The atmosphere inside the church changed in an instant. People who had come to hear the word of God were now witnessing something they never expected. Security guards approached Jennings and tension started building. The murmurs in the crowd grew louder. Some thought it was a misunderstanding. Others feared that something serious was about to happen. The church leaders looked at each other, unsure of what to do. A well-respected pastor was standing in their church, and now he was being accused of bringing a firearm into a sacred place. The question on everyone's mind was simple: why? What was Jennings thinking? Before the church leaders could make a decision, Jennings was confronted directly. The head of security stepped forward and asked him the big question: "Are you carrying a weapon?" The silence in the church was deafening. Some people held their breath, waiting for his response. Jennings did not deny it. Instead, he stood his ground. He looked directly at the security team and defended himself. He said that in today's world, pastors needed to protect themselves. He reminded them about recent violent attacks in churches where religious leaders were targeted. He made it clear he was not going to be a victim, but the church leaders didn't see it that way. They believed a church should be a place of worship, not a place for weapons. Things escalated quickly. Within minutes, a shocking decision was made. Jennings was banned from the church. The news spread like wildfire. Social media exploded with opinions. Some people supported him, saying he had the right to protect himself. Others believed he had crossed the line. Church members were divided. Some walked out in protest, saying they stood with Jennings. Others stayed behind, refusing to accept that a pastor would ever bring a weapon into a holy place. The internet couldn't stop talking about it. Videos from the church started circulating, and soon every major news outlet picked up the story. Now, the biggest question remained: was Gino Jennings wrong, or was he just being targeted for standing up for himself? The controversy had only just begun, and what happened next took things to a whole new level. The aftermath. Jennings fires back. After being banned from the church, Gino Jennings did what he does best. He spoke out. But this time, his words weren't just powerful, they were explosive. Just days after the incident, Jennings took to the pulpit at his own church and delivered a sermon that had everyone shaking. His voice thundered through the sanctuary as he looked directly into the camera and addressed his critics. "They tried to silence me. They tried to embarrass me. But let me make one thing clear. No man decides when and where I preach the word of God." The congregation erupted in applause, but this was just the beginning. Jennings didn't hold back. He called out church leaders, accusing them of being hypocrites. Mega church pastors have armed security guards standing at their doors. They carry guns. They have bodyguards. But when I take steps to protect myself, suddenly it's a problem. He pointed out a hard truth. Pastors have been targeted in recent years, with several tragic shootings happening inside churches. He claimed he wasn't just carrying a weapon for himself, but also to protect his congregation. His supporters were fired up. The comments on social media poured in. Pastor Jennings is right. The church needs protection in these dangerous times. They're trying to bring him down because he's a real man of God. But not everyone agreed. Backlash from the church community. While Jennings' followers stood by him, Many church leaders were not having it. Prominent pastors and religious figures came forward condemning his actions. Bishop Charles Watson of the Greater Faith Ministries released a statement saying, "The church is a place of peace, not violence. We do not condone bringing weapons into a house of worship under any circumstances." Another pastor, Reverend Martin Collins, went even further. "If you don't have faith that God will protect you, why are you even preaching? A real man of God does not need a gun." The backlash was intense. Many called for Jennings to be held accountable. Some even questioned if his church should face legal consequences for allowing him to carry a weapon inside. And just when it seemed like the controversy had reached its peak, a former church insider came forward with a shocking confession. The secret revealed, an insider speaks out. A former high-ranking member of Jennings' church, Elder Maurice Caldwell, stepped forward with jaw-dropping claims. In a viral interview, Caldwell revealed something that made the entire situation even more shocking. This isn't the first time. Pastor Jennings has always believed in pastors carrying weapons. Wait, what? Caldwell went on to say that Jennings had been telling church leaders for years that they should carry firearms for protection. He told us that we have to be prepared, that the world is getting more dangerous, that a shepherd must protect his flock at all costs. But here's the kicker. Caldwell also alleged that many church officials knew about this and looked the other way. They knew, but as long as Jennings was bringing in big crowds and big money, they ignored it. This revelation sent shockwaves through the Christian community. Many people who had defended Jennings were now questioning everything. Was he a man simply trying to protect himself, or had he been hiding this all along? Jennings, of course, didn't stay silent. Jennings' defiant response in the final showdown. After the bombshell revelations from Elder Maurice Caldwell, all eyes were on Gino Jennings. Would he back down, apologize, or double down on his stance? Well, if you know Pastor Jennings, you already know the answer. Standing before a packed congregation, Jennings stared straight into the camera and delivered a sermon that would go down in history. "The enemy is working overtime to discredit me, but I fear no man. I only answer to God." The crowd roared in support. Jennings wasn't backing down. In fact, he took things even further. "They say I should trust in God for protection. I do, but even the disciples carried swords. Even Nehemiah armed his men when they were rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem. So don't tell me what a real man of God should do." His words set social media on fire. He's speaking facts. The Bible supports self-defense. Jennings is fearless. They can't cancel him. This is why I respect him. He stands on what he believes. But while his supporters were fired up, his critics were more determined than ever. The legal battle. Will Jennings face charges? Church leaders weren't the only ones condemning Jennings. Now law enforcement was stepping in. Authorities began investigating whether Jennings violated state laws by carrying a firearm into a place of worship. Legal experts weighed in, stating that while some states allow it, others have strict bans on weapons inside religious spaces. Could Jennings actually face charges? Legal analyst James Holloway broke it down. If Jennings carried without the proper permits, he could be looking at serious legal consequences. Even if he had a license, some states have strict rules about carrying inside churches. If convicted, Jennings could face fines, suspension of his firearm license, or even jail time. But instead of showing fear, Jennings remained unbothered. At his next sermon, he addressed the legal threats head on. "Do whatever you want. You think I'm scared of your laws? I only fear the laws of God." The congregation erupted in applause. Jennings even hinted at taking legal action of his own against those trying to silence him. Final showdown. What happens next? As the controversy continues to rage on, one thing is clear. Gino Jennings is not backing down. Will he be arrested? Will the church community turn against him completely? Or will he come out of this stronger than ever? One thing's for sure, this story is far from over. What do you think? Is Pastor Jennings right to stand his ground, or is he completely in the wrong? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Make sure to like and subscribe for more jaw-dropping updates on this and other major stories.